With that, in the interest to try to move along, we're honored today to have in attendance with us a great friend of the industry. In 1995, we first enjoyed the opportunity to start working with David Rouzer as a staff member on Senator Helms's, as an ag member of his staff in Washington. Various different stints with USDA and back to Washington again to work on staff with Senator Dole. The critical part about his tenure with Senator Dole is the night 11 years ago, 10 and a half years ago, David, that the tobacco buyout passed, I remember very well who I was sitting with in the gallery of the United States House of Representatives. You remember this, David? We were sitting beside each other when the vote tally was recorded and the buyout was going to be passed and then later signed in October and ratified by President Bush. The reason I go back in our history for 10 years now, since the last buyout payments matured last month, is there are a lot of spokes that make a wheel go round, but there can only be one hub. And this next speaker truly, I think, carried the role of being our hub on the most significant tobacco legislation in our history. David Rouzer kept that thing on life support so many times when it looked like it was doomed, Tim. And we worked closely with him, hand in hand. He's one of the few people that if you remove him from the formula, I think we wouldn't have had it. Now, we've also recognized in the past that Senator Burr, who was a House member at the time, Mike McIntyre, who was a House member at the time, and a coalition were critical. And many of you who pushed and advocated for it. So he served in the state Senate, as you are all aware, and this past November, finally, we have him elected to the United States House of Representatives as a member of Congress from the 7th District. But regardless of where you live in North Carolina, I want you to feel confident that if you call David Rouzer, particularly on a tobacco issue, he's going to be your member of Congress. And that's critical because we don't have to explain anything to him from the tenure of Senator Helms up to today. And he's on the Ag Committee. He will explain to you some significant achievement in his appointment onto the committee. But guys, we are fortunate to have, as a member of Congress, the strongest possible voice for our industry. Please help welcome for his first presentation here. He's presented before, but his first presentation today as the Honorable David Rouzer, United States Congressman.
Well, thank you, Graham. I appreciate the nice introduction there. You know, it's hard to believe it's been 10 years ago since the tobacco quota buyout. I had a fellow mention to me the other day, he said, David, you just got elected to Congress just in the nick of time. We need another buyout. I said, I'm not so sure that's going to happen. But anyhow, yeah, I think back about that time, and it was hard. Nobody gave us a chance. You know, everybody thought I was crazy for going back to Senator Elizabeth Dole to work on an issue that everybody thought was an effort and futility. But, you know, I'm very fortunate to come from a very good family, and I remember something that my grandfather said in 1992, and in fact I wrote it down in my Bible. It had such an impact on me. He said, son, he said, the smartest people in the world are the ones who never give up. And you know, there's a lot of challenges that we face in this country. There's a lot of challenges that we face as an industry. And I just, I think about that. I think about his words. It was December of 1992. Like I said, I inscribed it in my Bible there. The smartest people in the world are the ones who never give up. So remember that. Now, that's not part of my speech today, but I thought I'd start out with that. And let me say, I saw J.H. Langdon and Brent Jackson and Andrew Brock up here. What great men they are to have serving us in the North Carolina legislature. They really believe in agriculture, believe in tobacco. You have three great friends there. Of course, J.H. is my neighbor at McGee's Crossroads. He and I live about half a mile apart. He's keeping a tab on my home when I'm in Washington, making sure nobody's run off with it. J.H., I appreciate you very much. He's been a loyal and great friend and supporter for a long, long time. And just been an honor to serve with him in the legislature, as it has been my good friend Brent Jackson and Andrew Brock. One of your next speakers up here, Senator Tom Tillis, had the great honor and privilege to work with him in the legislature as well, and very excited about working with him in the United States Congress. Now, a lot of you have mentioned my pen. Last night at the reception, you said, "Ma, that's a good-looking pen there." And I got to thinking about it, and I thought to myself, well, that pen only cost about $3 million. Actually, more than that, when you total it all up, $3 million was what we raised for the two campaigns combined, not counting all the other money that was spent on the race. Of course, I looked at Tom Tillis's pen, and I thought, well, you know, I'm thinking mine cost about $3 million. Tom Tillis's cost about $110 million. Now that puts it in perspective, doesn't it? But you know, one of the things I truly believe, I believe we need to have a strong America abroad and a prosperous America at home. Chris Christie, I think, sums up where we are in this country very well. I don't know if many of y'all had an opportunity to listen to him speak here in the last several months, but he tells the story of a lady that came up to him on the campaign trail. And she says, "Governor," she says, "we used to control events in this world. Now events control us." Well, let me tell you, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way at all. Most of you notice that our Speaker of the House, John Boehner, to his great credit, has invited Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to the U.S. Congress to speak later on in March. And there's been a little gnashing of teeth out of the White House over that invitation, and others who don't perhaps share our same worldview. But let me tell you something, Israel is America's aircraft carrier in the Middle East. Let me put it very simply for you. That's the way to think about it. And for the life of me, I don't know why our president doesn't understand that. And I don't know why others in this country can't understand that. And one of the reasons why our Speaker of the House, John Boehner, to his great credit, has invited Benjamin Netanyahu to speak to the U.S. Congress is to send a signal to the world that the People's House, the United States House of Representatives, and many of our colleagues in the United States Senate understand what perhaps our president does not understand. And that is, Israel is our ally and our friend, and again, let me put it this way, our aircraft carrier in the Middle East, and we want the rest of the world to understand that we know they're our friend, and we're going to support and defend and protect their interest, because let me tell you, their interests are our interest. Now, we can't have a strong America abroad if we don't have a strong Israel and we don't protect our aircraft carrier in the Middle East. That's the bottom line. Now, domestically, we have a great opportunity in this country. We have our challenges. We've got a national debt, $18 trillion, and it's going to climb higher and higher. Think about what it's going to be 50 years from now. And as a new member of Congress, I'm thinking 50 years from now, what do we need to be doing today to make sure that America is secure at home and powerful abroad? Well, one of the things we've got to do is we've got to get our economy moving again. That's the single most important thing to helping us tackle this national debt. And there's a couple of items that we got to focus on. The Lord has blessed this country with great resources. Agriculture is incredibly important to this economy and to making America powerful again, making America prosperous again. You think about it. We got all the land resources that we need, the technology that we need. We have the research capabilities that we need to feed and clothe not only us, but the rest of the world, and that's what we've been doing. All we need is the right leadership in place so that we can continue to do that. That's how important agriculture is. What you all are doing, those of you who are in this room, what you are doing back home really is providing the impetus and the ingredients for a successful America. That's why I'm on the House Agriculture Committee. A lot of people to get on, because they're the two committees that I believe where I can make the most difference, not only for this district in the state of North Carolina, but for this country. As it happened to turn out, they named me chairman of the Livestock and Foreign Agriculture Subcommittee. And I am told that certainly within the last 30 years, I would be the first freshman to ever chair that subcommittee. Some people think I may be the first freshman ever. We haven't looked that far back in the archives. But the reason why I was able to get on those two committees is because of your help and your support all along the way. The Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, you think about how important infrastructure is to the economy, not only of the 7th Congressional District in the state of North Carolina, but this country. We have critical issues that we're facing. You know, we have roads and bridges that were built 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago. They weren't designed to last forever. They're crumbling under our feet. Couple that with all the other major issues that we face. We have to tackle these challenges now. We have tough decisions that we've got to make now. But we have the capability to do that. Energy is a great opportunity for this state and for this country. It was interesting to me during the State of the Union address, the president was taking credit for the drop in fuel prices. Let me tell you something. What's created the drop in fuel prices is the innovation and the entrepreneurship and the talented men and women working in the oil and gas industry. We've increased production in this country by about 80% over a 6-year period, not because of the government, but in spite of the government. Imagine what we could do if we had a government that worked with us and not against us. That's our challenge, is we got to start working for the people rather than working against the people. Tobacco is such a critical part of all this too. Think about North Carolina. Where would agriculture be today? Where would the state of North Carolina be today if it weren't for tobacco? In spite of what they may think in Duke and Chapel Hill and even in some areas at NC State and elsewhere, tobacco made this state. We wouldn't have the hospitals. We wouldn't have these fine universities. We wouldn't have the community colleges. We wouldn't have the churches all throughout rural North Carolina that we have today if it weren't for tobacco. So I'm proud of tobacco. Always have been. It's part of my family, and I hope will be part of my family for a long time to come. When you walk in my office, the first thing you see is a tobacco leaf in a shadow box. Just turn a little bit to the right, which I encourage all of us to do from time to time, and you'll see nice golden. I'm glad some of you picked up on that. You'll see a nice golden leaf in a shadow box right there when you walk in the door. When the U.S. ambassador or our U.S. Trade Representative ambassador was at the Ag Committee the other day, came and had a private meeting before, there were probably 16, 17 of us from the Ag Committee that were there to meet with him for a private meeting. Went around the table, everybody had their issues of concern. And I looked at him, I said, Mr. Ambassador, I said, I'm a one-issue man this morning, and that's tobacco. We've got the trade, or the Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership Agreement, and I've heard rumors for some time that you all plan to exclude tobacco from that agreement. And he dodged and hemmed a little bit, and he said, well, you know, there's a middle ground, and tobacco is a unique product and all for it. I said, no, there is no middle ground. There's no middle ground at all. Because if you go this route and you exclude tobacco, forget about what you may think about tobacco. Fact of the matter is, you're going to be charting this country on a course, a very slippery slope, where what's going to happen when another country comes forward and says, you know what, we don't want beef because of hormone use. We don't want GMO soybeans. We don't want poultry or pork from the United States for whatever reason it may be. I said, so this isn't a tobacco issue. This is an agriculture issue. So if you discriminate against tobacco now, you're opening up the door for every country from this point forward to discriminate against every other product made in America as well. And he hemmed a halt again and said, well, you know, tobacco is just a little bit different. And I said, well, let me put it to you this way. I remember in 1996, when the Clinton administration was issuing their FDA rule. And everybody around the table said, oh, how horrible it is, how evil it is, and everything else. And we were in a panel discussion, and it was me and all these other anti-tobacco advocates. And I mentioned to them, I said, you know, it may be tobacco today, but 10 years from now, it'll be McDonald's Happy Meals. It will be guns. It will be whatever anybody chooses that they don't like. Because, you know, if you think about it, if somebody doesn't want to do something, any excuse is just as good as any other excuse. And let me tell you something about statistics, because they carted out all these statistics talking about this and that with tobacco. Statistics are nothing but anything except to be manipulated. And they are many, many times. Fact of the matter is, we need to do what's right. Tobacco is a legal product. It is a product that some people enjoy, and they have the right to enjoy it. And as long as it is a legal product, it should be treated no differently than any other product. To sum all this up, we have the natural resources in this country to grow this economy in a way that we've not seen in some time. Energy is such a key component of it. We have the natural resources in this country to be a dominant player in energy, to be a major exporter of oil and natural gas. Think about what low-cost energy does for everybody, for you as tobacco farmers. Low-cost energy attracts manufacturing. Lower gas prices, think about what that does for every small business. We all remember in 2008 when gas prices started to skyrocket, how that just kills you. That significant increase in that fuel cost. That probably did more to bring this economy down than anything else. So think about what low-cost energy means for the growth of this economy. But I also want you to think about this. It's a great strategic tool internationally. Yeah, I got involved in politics because of an experience I had the summer of 1994 in Prague, the Czech Republic. My roommate was from Romania, lived his whole entire life behind the Iron Curtain under tyranny. And he looked at me, he said, David, he said, you folks in America don't have a clue. He said, you don't understand what you have. They understood more about America and its history and its purpose and its founding and a whole lot more about free enterprise than we did. But I can tell you, I know in my heart, this country is here for a reason. And the Lord's not given up on us yet. We have an opportunity over the course of the next 30 to 50 years to have a major resurgence in this country if we have the right leadership in place. As I said at the outset, I'm looking at this over a 50-year time period. We have the natural resources available to us. Energy, when you think about it, we're the dominant exporter in oil and natural gas. Drive that price even further down. It cripples the terrorists and all the other thugs and tyrants around the world. And that's personal to me because my roommate that summer in '94, when he looked me in the eyes, he teared up. He'd lived his whole life under tyranny. We have an opportunity to make a great difference, not only for your children and your grandchildren, but for the future of this country and the future of the world. And you, as tobacco farmers and tobacco families, you're a part of it. You're a big part of it. You're a much bigger part of it than what you know. Because when you can feed and clothe the rest of the world and provide the energy for the rest of the world, guess what? We're in the catbird seat. We have a great opportunity in this country. Let's take advantage of it. Thank you and God bless you. Great to be with you.
Congressman, what we're most excited about, he mentioned his over a decade of experience, and it obviously comes through his passion, his vision, his commitment. But the most significant thing now, David, about your return to Washington is this time you have a vote. And so use it wisely, and we appreciate what you represent.